this is always, or this is the perennial warning that we're about to be out on the internet. The internet lives forever, so careful what you say.
Rabbi, please make me a co-host.
Absolutely. There you are.
Okay, I think we'll start in 30 seconds.
Okay, and yes, and we are live out to the internet.
Well, welcome everyone. I'm Dan Goodman from Woodbury, Southbury, Connecticut, member of the Israel Advocacy Committee at Temple B'nai Israel and member of the Jewish Federation of Western Connecticut. I welcome you all. If you're coming back for second round, welcome you back. We have 30 minutes of our program already done, and we'll send you the link for the YouTube, and then this session will also be on YouTube for future reference. If you would like to ask questions, please send chat directed to me, and we'll direct those questions to the speakers. And then if we have time, we'll open it up for individual comments, and you can do that by indicating at the bottom of your screen where it says reactions. There's a choice to raise your hand. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Dar Nadler. She's the emissary from JNF Israel to the Boston area, the New England area of JNF-USA. And then she will introduce our speaker. Dar?
Hi, everybody, and sorry again for the confusion. I would like to say just a few words to give you just this little preview about JNF and what we do and how Ammunition Hill is actually colliding with our current effort and mission in the state of Israel. So for most of you, probably when you hear about JNF, you think about trees. Am I right? Now, JNF has evolved, especially in the last few decades, to above and beyond planting trees, although we take great pride of planting more than 250 million trees in the land of Israel. Today, JNF-USA is all about developing new areas in Israel. Today, we are building what we call building a nation. We are investing in deprived and underdeveloped regions in Israel, such as the Galilee in the north of Israel and the south, the Negev of Israel. So to make them more attractive for young Israeli professionals to relocate there instead of migrating outside of Israel, which is often the case, unfortunately. We are building communities. We are developing job opportunities. We are promoting Israelis with special needs. We are investing greatly in education and Zionist youth movements. We are leading the world in water resolutions. And in the past few years, we also took upon preserving the modern history of Israel by collaborating with the heritage sites in Israel, such as Ammunition Hill, on which you will hear more from Alon in a few minutes. And really, we do so much more than that. It's, of course, a whole, I can give a whole lecture about what JNF is doing. We don't have the time for it today. But this is the way that JNF-USA is executing New Zionism. Now, what is it? What is New Zionism, right? When Israel is already a done deal, when Israel is, we often experience Israel as a strong and secure nation. Why do we even need to use the word Zionism anymore? So New Zionism is about the completion of the original Zionist mission, is about securing not only a state of Israel that we already did, but it's about securing a democratic, strong and moral state of Israel that is enabling Israelis to live all around Israel, also in the north and the south of Israel, and developing those regions to be just as successful as Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, or Haifa. Now, New Zionism is also the very special way, I'd say, for Jews from all around the world to be part of the Zionist mission. Now, in the traditional Zionism, it was all about relocate, like making aliyah to Israel and inhabit the land. Today, it's not the story anymore. Today, Jews from all over the world, from America, obviously, especially, can be a part of the Zionist mission by simply belong, get involved, care, and support the state of Israel. Now, you're probably asking yourself, but can I contribute to this? Is it even legit for me as an American Jew to be involved in the state of Israel? How can I even make a difference from all the way far from here? So the answer is, of course, you can, and we would love to have you with us, because one of the most special things about Jewish National Fund USA is that through this organization, you can actually be involved and connected and belong to the land of Israel, but without interfering in the political process. Now, can you imagine what a privilege it is that you can actually make a difference, you can actually influence, but without interfering in the political process? So for us, American Jewry is an integral part of the New Zionism. Not only is it an integral part, but I would say that you guys are the leading factor in everything to do with New Zionism that is in the diaspora. And the state of Israel, needless to say, but I feel like still it's something that, especially in Yom Ha'atzmaut, is something that is very important to always remind everybody everywhere in the world. The state of Israel belongs to all Jews. It belongs to you just as much as it belongs to us Israelis. It's also your safe haven should you ever seek one. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our speaker, who will probably, with his personal story, will demonstrate just how strong is the connection to Israel. So it is my privilege, right, to introduce you to a man who has devoted his life to serving Israel. He is a decorated IDF officer who served his country in the elite IDF unit, the Israeli Secret Service, and oversaw security operations at Israeli embassies around the world. He is a patriot who has been involved in the operation of the Ammunition Hill Memorial for over a decade, currently as marketing manager and event coordinator. And he's keeping alive the memory of his father, Captain Rami Wild, killed when Alon was a baby, when leading the 55th Paratrooper Brigade into Ammunition Hill during the Six-Day War. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Major Retired Alon Wild.
Shalom, everybody. Are you ready for another version of an Israeli accent? It's a great privilege for me to address you guys. You know that this week is a very complicated week in Israel, and for us, the bereaved families, even more. But I think you are the best ears to hear my story. You know, you must have participated in so many Zoom calls the past 12 months. I'm promising you that it's going to be a little bit different. It's not a lecture. It's going to come from my heart directly to yours. And I'm going to try to connect all the dots that Dar just mentioned through my own story, through the story of my life, through the story of the life of my family. And I think that at the end, you will understand a little bit more about what we are standing for, not always fighting for, but standing for. I am 54 years old. Officially, I'm running the events and the marketing of Ammunition Hill, but during my talk today, try to use your imagination and reduce me to the size of a 10-month baby, of a 5, 6, 7-year-old kid who ran in the trenches of Ammunition Hill, who you are just about to see, without understanding the meaning, the notion of amazing words I'm sharing on a daily basis at Ammunition Hill. bravery, camaraderie, commitment to mission, loyalty, Zionism, Har HaBayit, Kotel, Israel. Those words meant nothing to me, same as simple naive words like father and death. I never knew my father. I lost him at the age of 10 months when his friends, his comrades in arms, summoned him to war. And this is something I'm carrying all my life, trying to understand these minutes. These guys had to leave us again, time and again, to fight and to risk their lives. And I'm going to share with you some things that will give you the starting point. It's not a history lesson, but you can all see the maps. You can see them. Okay, the beginning of my life, the beginning of the story of Israel in 1967 and the beginning of Ammunition Hill is the Six-Day War. And during the Six-Day War, or before the Six-Day War, Israel was a very narrow nation surrounded by Arab nations. And 2 or 3 weeks before the war started, in 5th of June 1967, President Nasser promised all over the available media, you Jewish people, I'm going to storm into Israel, leading all the Arab armies, and I'm going to butcher you, I'm going to throw you to the sea, I'm going to finish whatever Hitler could not have achieved. And Israel people felt in 1967 like on the edge of annihilation, like a second Holocaust is going to fall on our head. And my grandmother and mother said to me that they were actually digging trenches in front of their homes in Rishon LeZion and the city of Kfar Saba. People were really afraid. And the Israel government decided not to wait to be butchered, and they did something unbelievable. They launched a preemptive strike and sent all the aviators of the IDF, very low flight, that is being taught until today in all the modern armies of the world. They stormed into the Sinai Peninsula, into Egypt, and demolished all the airplanes of the combat airplanes of the Egyptian army on the ground. It was a very tough decision, but within 2.5 hours, we were preoccupied with all the fronts: Golan Heights against the Syrians, Sinai Peninsula against the Egyptians, and surely the long border in the east against the Jordanian modern army. When you close in the resolution, you know that from 1948, Jerusalem was divided to 2 cities. At the end of the independence war, nobody could decide who took over Jerusalem, who won over Jerusalem. So 2 generals decided to actually take a pen and chop Jerusalem from the north to the south, 8.5 kilometers, for 19 years divided Jerusalem to 2 cities, the Jordanian side and the Israeli side. And on the north side of Jerusalem, on the Jordanian side, you can see here the red mark, lies Ammunition Hill, which is a stronghold that overlooks the north side of Jerusalem, and whoever controls Ammunition Hill can block anybody from penetrating or bringing reserves from Ramallah in the north, from Jericho in the east, and surely from Jaffa in the west, and surely to Mount Scopus and to the old city of Jerusalem. Jordanians knew it, and this is why at Ammunition Hill they held the elite command units of the Jordanian famous notorious tribe of El Hussein. They knew this maze of trenches like the palm of their hands, and they were the best of the best. And whoever wanted to approach the old city of Jerusalem or the east side of Jerusalem had to confront this stronghold. And until today, Ammunition Hill offices and new museums and all the facilities are surrounding intact maze of trenches, exactly as the paratroopers found it when they stormed inside to conquer this place. 300 meters of trenches and 40 bunkers were actually my childhood playground. I did not understand while playing hide and seek that in this place the paratroopers faced one of the toughest, most complicated battles they ever faced during our 73 years of our existence. 36 guys fell there, almost 100 were severely wounded, but they broke, against all odds, the Jordanian front, a thing which resulted that 2 days afterwards, our government decided to seize the moment and send the troops to reunite Jerusalem, to release the Kotel and the Jewish quarters and Bet HaKnesset HaChurva and Har HaBayit, and did something that nobody planned initially. And I'm walking there every day in an air-conditioned office, practically 56 meters from the place my father fell. But to begin the story of Ammunition Hill, the beginning story of my life, you need to understand that in any full-scale war we are facing, and we face about 6 full-scale wars during our existence, The majority of the fighting units are not the enlisted young guys you see wearing uniforms all over the streets of Israel, the bus stations, whenever you come. These are the IDF. These are indeed one of the best armies in the world. But whenever we need to collide against 4 Arab armies, we need to summon the reservists. And then 80% of the fighting units in Israel are the reservists. And who are they? Carpenters, grocery shop owners, lecturers, fresh grooms, rabbis, lawyers who have to make time and again this unbelievable shift in their mind, shifting from being a lover, a father to a newborn son, to a combat engineer specialist, to a tank commanding officer. All my life I tried to understand the minute my father took me in his hands, sniffed my head like he loved to do for 10 months from whenever I was born. He loved to sniff my head. Gave me to my grandfather, said to him, "Guard my son and leave me." At the age of 6 and 7 and 8, I was asking his friends, "What is reservist? He was not in the army. Didn't he love my mother? Didn't he love me?" I was angry with my father. And the question we posed as the generation of the official Tutsis of Ammunition Hill are the real question need to be asked: who we are and what do we stand for? And I believe I will give you some answers to understand how we chose to remember these guys and what is the full extent of their service. And my father, indeed, first and foremost, was a carpenter. He was 32 years old. He was the love of the life of my mother, and he was a proud father to a 10-month baby when he was summoned to war. Where does it come from? All this bravery and camaraderie and commitment to a nation. Does it come with the uniforms? Does it come with the ranks? No. You guys, this is the Jewish nation. We are not a Spartan nation. We do not breed our guys or kids to become martyrs. We worship peace and life and not death and sacrifice. He had to bring something else. All these guys had to bring something else. But he did it. He left me and went for the greater good, and he stormed into Ammunition Hill as a combat engineer specialist, paved the way to this pivotal battle. And when he fell, his friends, his comrades, literally over his dead body, stormed inside and became part of history. Who you are, my father. I wanted to know you all my life, and this is actually will end the story. Daddy, now I know. I wanted to know him so much. Now, when my father was in preparation to war for 2 weeks, nobody knew what's going on. Our personnel, our fighting units were ready to this preemptive strike. He was a high-ranking officer. He knew that they are going to war. And when the order came, the first thing he had to do, because Israel is so small, and he knew that my mother, being so afraid, took me to the apartment of my grandmother and grandfather 20 minutes from the orchards of Rehovot when all these guys were ready for war. The first thing he knew when he understood at the end of this day they are going to war, he took a jeep and he stormed into Rishon LeZion with his driver and another soldier. And out of nowhere, my mother said to me, there was a knock on the door, and suddenly after 2 weeks, your father pops up wearing these camouflage uniforms. He looked intact. He looked so big, like nobody can harm your father. He never gave any explanation. He took you in his arms. He hugged you so deeply. He walked towards your grandfather. And my grandfather said to me, I saw from the eyes of your father, he wanted to say something, but it was a great secret. He couldn't say anything. He wanted to say goodbye. He wanted to hold you in your arms for the last time. And today, after so many years, I can tell you that these guys, as brave as they were not gods upon earth, were not machines of war. They needed us. Israel is such a small country. The families and the guys in the front are all together for so many times. He wanted to feel something. I will never know if I was a burden on his shoulder when he stormed inside. If he thought about me, I will never know. But this gesture had to mean something, and it means so much for me while trying to understand my father and his choosing during the path that led him eventually to his death. And they did it. 2.5 days. They are saying 6-day war. We are the only nation in the modern era that within 6 days collided against 4 Arab armies and triple the size of Israel, reaching the holy mountain and the Kotel. It was never done by not even one nation in the modern era. 6 days, complete. It was a miracle. And after 2.5 days, tens of thousands of Jewish people were marveling the reunification of Jerusalem. All over the world Jewry, people were marveling this miracle from the edge of annihilation. Dancing, screaming, chanting, shofarot, rabbis, media, they were all there. Try to understand what I'm talking about. The dissonance, edge of annihilation, 2 weeks of operation, 6 days of war, and the entire nation are rejoicing, dancing. At the middle, 182 bereaved families, including my mother and my grandfather and grandmother, were stuck. Nobody could deal with them because everybody was dancing and singing and marveling the unification of Jerusalem. The only guys who bothered to understand that nobody can wait for the government, or the army of the Ministry of Defense to deal with the bereaved families are the comrades in arms of my father. Almost 100 of these guys were the paratroopers, and these guys as reservists knew each other from the Palmach. They knew each other from the Independence War, from the 56 campaign, from the kibbutzes. The wives knew each other. The parents knew each other. And within 2.5 days, bang, they lost 100 of their friends, brothers. And everybody are dancing now. They made a decision, which was so imminent for me to understand who are they. They were the peak of the celebrations. Everybody were pointing at them. They are the liberators of Jerusalem. A day afterwards, after the first event in front of the Kotel, they met at the apartment of Dr. King, the admired doctor of the brigade who saved lives along with his medics and doctors for so many days before. They worshipped him. And they divided the bereaved families between themselves. And a day afterward, there was a knock on the door of my mother and father's apartment. Only my mother was there with me. My father was dead for 4 days already. And 10 salt of the earth, amazing paratroopers, now civilians once again stepped inside. My mother was in a state of shock. She lost the love of her life 4 days ago. They pointed at me. I was a 10-month baby. What the hell do I know? And they said to her in so many words, maybe Alonchik, this is my nickname, lost a father, but here 10 alternative fathers, he will never step alone anymore. Now this vow, this promise, resonated in dozens of other apartments all over Israel, in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, in the kibbutzes, in the south and the north. They came to their friends' families. They said to them, we are here for you. And while doing this amazing gesture, they implemented the same values that led them to be victorious against all odds at Ammunition Hill and at all the fronts of Israel when they launched the attack. Bravery, camaraderie, commitment to a mission, leadership do not belong to the IDF. They do not belong to wartime or for that extent, to the trenches of Ammunition Hill. They belong to human beings, and they approach my mother as human beings. And I'm so proud to tell you that I was raised on the laps of amazing idol figures who were substituting, they never asked for a title. They could be my uncles, older brothers, alternative fathers. I couldn't care less. Whenever I needed them, whenever my generation needed them, they were there for us. I'm talking about the resolution of elementary school, and you need to bring your father to talk about his career. I had one heck of a bunch of fellows to choose every year because they became high-ranking officers and parliament members. They never stopped implementing the same values. I was so proud of them. And without even knowing them, I collected the puzzle of my father using them. Small gestures, mimics, values, beliefs, how might my father look like, decision-making. Each and every one of them was the idol of my childhood, but it never ended there. I became a young guy. I went to the army, somebody led me. I was getting married, somebody led me. The first birth of my daughter, somebody was there. Cemetery of Mount Herzl, they never left us. And these guys, we owe them so much. They created Ammunition Hill because they never left Ammunition Hill. And I was running after somebody who could be my uncle, I don't know. But he was the figure I could relate to. And through them, I found my path. And these guys until today, the age of 80, 82, 83, they are coming. 32 of them are volunteering until today, talking as grandfathers, talking as commanding officers, as storytellers, mediating the amazing story we are standing for. But I saw that there is a majority of women here at this talk. So I want to talk to you about something which is another layer of the legacy we are talking about. It's not only about the chauvinist fighting of the males. This is my mother. She celebrated 8 years old about 2 months ago. She's the rock of my life. But I started the story when I was 10 months. I'm now 54. At the age of 40, the friends of my father called me and my generation to replace them and become their voice. And this is what we are doing. But another age in my life so important to share with you is the age of 17, when the army knocks on my door, because most of us need to go to the army. And I wanted to know my father 17 years, and now it's my option to become also of good service to my nation. But in Israel, such an amazing nation, we protect the bereaved families. And if somebody dies from first relation in combat, his successor, younger brother or son, cannot go by law, by definition of the law, to a combat unit. And if you think that I'm trying to solicit people or kids to go to combat units, forget it. Service is something which is way beyond rifles and bullets. Do whatever you can wherever you are. I never judge people that decide to do other things. I wanted to know my father while wearing the same red boots. I wanted my 10 fathers to be proud of me. I wanted my father to be proud of me, and I wanted to service my nation. And the only option for me to bypass this law is to approach my legal guardian. And you see 99% of our lives, these is our legal guardians, our humble, sweet, brave mothers who are behind the scenes all our lives, facing so many difficulties to guard us. And a stupid, egoistic boy at the age of 17 approaches his mother without even remotely understanding what am I loading on the shoulders of my mommy, saying to her, "Mommy, please, there's an annex in the law that allows you to give a release to the government, and then I can become a paratrooper. Please, Mommy," in other words, gamble your sanity in my life. I didn't say it like this, but this is actually what I asked for her, and sign this waiver because I want to become a paratrooper. And a mother that looks into her son's eyes in an unbelievable tough situation like this, saying to him, "Go to do it. By choosing, I allow it." She is as brave as each and every one of the guys I can talk to you about their bravery for hours. But a mother that looks into her son's eyes at the age of 17, when he is loading all these amazing values on her small shoulders, saying to him, "I do not care. Hate me all your life. Do not speak to me ever again. I'm not signing the waiver. You'll be alive. I'm not signing the waiver." She is as brave. Once again, we are not a Spartan nation. We can never judge a mother that said yes or no. But in Israel, bravery, as I told you, is part of our mothers and sisters and wives. It's all the same. Everything comes to a sense when you are looking at a situation like this. And my mother indeed said to me that she's going to back me up. And I sent her to 5 years of not being able to sleep because I ran as far away as I could. I became a paratrooper and an officer, and I'm part of the very admired Maglan unit. I was there in when I was enlisted, and also as a reservist. I finished the army. The Secret Service found me, and I became an Air Marshal of El Al. I was kept on landing in your turf all over the globe, guarding airplanes of El Al. I was a security officer in charge of the embassy in Cairo, Egypt. If you can avoid, do not go there. It's a very tough place. And then I was for 4 years serving in Vienna. I can speak to you German and Arab. I ran as far away as I could because I wanted to be part of this big story. But, and you know, believe it or not, my father was here. He was here, and he was my conscience. He was my power. All my fathers, without even knowing it, were behind me all these years. But when my mother was supposed to sign the waiver in front of a lawyer on behalf of the Minister of Defense that had to know that she was being of sound mind and body, is not being intimidated or forced or manipulated, he looked into my mother's eyes, saying to her, "Ginat, are you absolutely sure you know what you're doing?" And my mother said with a jaw like this, yes, she hated every minute. But before signing the waiver, she approached me and she said to me, "Alonchik, I'm going to sign the waiver. Just promise me not to be as stupid and as brave as your father." Listen to what comes from the guts of a Yiddish mama in a situation that nobody prepared her for it, ever. Nobody can prepare any mother for this. And this is something I will carry all my life, because she said something amazing which I keep on saying to people and visitors and Zoom calls all over the world. You must know it, that histories of nations are being carved by people who are working between stupidity and bravery. And my lesson to myself and to my daughters and to visitors and to your kids and to yourself, you do not need to be on the edges to make a difference. Just leave time and again your comfort zone, and you can make a miracle. And you can be brave to your congregation, to your school, to your high school, to your yeshiva. You do not need to sacrifice your lives to implement all these amazing values. And the path we started 13 years ago could not have been achieved without the support of JNF, because when they heard what we are talking about, and when they heard that we are going to talk about the 99% of the other lives of our fathers, not only about the last amazing 30 seconds of their brave achievements, they said to us, you guys, wow, you are talking about the widest common denominator of a nation, of values. We want to be part of it. And we had the vision, we did not have the means, and JNF decided to help us to literally leap outside from the trenches, who are amazing until today. And we created state-of-the-art modern facilities. We tripled the amount of visitors. The government did not deal with it at the beginning. Now they are so proud we created it. We started with 70,000 people annually. We are now going to surpass 400,000 people. State-of-the-art modern museum down underground with unique animations and films and clips. This all speaks 6 languages, and it's a standalone facility. People come from all over the world, surely not the past year. A diorama, 2 buses can go inside, and within 19 minutes they can see what happened in Jerusalem 54 years ago. Kids love it. People from all over the world come to see this diorama. Until today, thanks to JNF efforts, more than 900,000 people saw this display, and I'm very proud of it. Our commemoration hall, there are many in Israel. This is a unique of its kind. I think 100% of the investment was JNF. It is amazing. It was launched by the Minister of Defense and Bibi Netanyahu. It is unique by all standards because this is the only commemoration hall in Israel on the national level that is showing 182 people the way they lived and not the way they died. Now, I can talk to you about many other projects. The Jewish Combatants Honoring Wall is something that JNF started. Nobody believed about the evolution of this wall. Anybody that has a member of his family, a relative that served any nation in the world can be cherished here on this wall, which is amazing. We're already carrying more than 500 names of people who served other countries, other nations all over the world, showing the whole world that Jewish people are not only lawyers and physicians and rabbis and book writers. Time and again, they were serving their nations. You have here Jewish people who fought on behalf of the German army in the First World War, United States Army, Canadian Army, Czechoslovakian Army, Russian Army. Everybody that comes to Ammunition Hill can see now that the story of the Jewish people is a story of values, and we are so proud of the evolution of this amazing wall. To close the story to make a closure to the story, because I can talk for hours, while understanding and learning about my father, I knew that he was climbing mountains all over the world. He wanted to pick all the mountains in the world. Surely in Israel, but when he started after his army, regular army, he went to Japan and he climbed Fujiyama, and he went to the Alps and he was one of the first Israelis to reach Mont Blanc. And when he was sent to Africa to help build on behalf of the IDF, the Imperial Army of Haile Selassie, somebody told him that he is another peak, one of the 7th greater peaks of the world, Kilimanjaro. And he said, I'm here, I will do it. Without proper clothing, without thermal clothing, without the experience. 4 days it took him to go up and down. And when I had the privilege to make a movie about him, I saw what he wrote there, and I saw that 57 years ago he wrote that he saw the most beautiful sunrise in the world. And wanted to know my father all my life, I wanted to go there. I wanted to see the same sunrise my father saw. And I approached my daughters. These 2 kids here on the right side, they are 28, and 26 today. An officer of the IDF, a security officer of El Al, very feminine but served their nation. And I said to them, Amit, Noam, do you want to come with me to see the same sunrise your grandfather saw? Because I want to know him. And they said to my surprise, Daddy, we are coming with you. This is Matan. She was too little, too young to do it. And we started preparations about 1.5 years ago. 4 months it took us to make the preparations, but along with us, we carried this is them about 2 years ago. There was a mission consisting 19 people, 3 generations of paratroopers. They all heard that I want to make a closure with my father. And another 4 brothers and sisters, orphans of Ammunition Hill, decided to come with me. We all prepared ourselves. It's very difficult for 4 months. And about 1 year and about 14 months ago, This is Kilimanjaro. This is me and my daughters. We were facing difficulties you could not even imagine how difficult it was. It was freezing cold. Rain showers for 2 days. We wanted to go there. We wanted to understand these people through their legs and sweats. And you can see my daughter looking at the camera as if saying, "Daddy, what the hell were you thinking?" It was so difficult. But after 5 challenging days, we saw the most amazing sunrise anybody could imagine. When you're seeing sunrise from 6,000 meters, 18,000 feet, it's not a round circle. It's like somebody lit all the skies, all the horizon from left to right. This is what my father saw when he started the path of his life, when he wanted to break another frontier, he wanted to challenge himself. Before even knowing my mother and myself, it was 15 minutes we could not move. There was not oxygen in the air. We were ecstatic. And we carried on and we reached this famous place. I was accompanied with 2 Rami Valds, named after my father, 2 of my cousins who were born after he was dead, 2 of my daughters, 3 generations of paratroopers. We were all crying there. It was so challenging. And I took out this from my pocket. This is a special mark, a pin of Ammunition Hill. I took it out and with my freezing hands, I stuck it in the freezing logs of lumber there, along with the marks of expeditions from all over the world. And for my guts, while crying, I was screaming, "Daddy, now I know," in Hebrew, "Abba, achshav ani yodea." It came, I did not prepare it. I wanted to know him all my life. This minute, reaching the front, so far away from Israel, so high, close to God, if you will, being hugged by 2 Rami Valds and by 2 of my daughters, I think I know him so much more than so many other kids that have a father taken for granted, comes from his amazing career every day, 9 p.m. I had to extract my father from his comrades in arms, from my mother. I wanted to know him. And being today really the torchbearer of this amazing generation, breaking my teeth in English, I believe that we and JNF are doing something remarkable because people are coming to Ammunition Hill. They understand that we are indeed one people, one nation. And to end this story, we carried all the flags of Israel, all the units, everything we could over there. It was a very emotional moment. But along with us came Yaki Chetz. He received the Medal of Valor at Ammunition Hill. He was 76 when he heard that we are going to honor his friends. And he said, "You guys, I'm coming with you." And we said, "You are too old, Yaki. I'm running half marathons until today. I will do it. I'll get the permission. I'm coming with you." Against all odds, the liberator of Jerusalem, one of my fathers, did something unbelievable. He climbed all the way up. Against all odds, he came there and he said, "You guys, this is me. On behalf of all my dead and alive friends, on behalf of this legacy, I'm here." This is one heck of a lesson. These are these guys. Never saying enough. Keep on fighting for Israel liberty and safety. But this is one of them. This is one of my fathers. This is one of our nation's fathers. And I'm so proud to be able to tell this story. And day after tomorrow, I'm going to come to Mount Herzl and to say once again to my father that I'm so proud of him. I'm not angry that he left me at the age of 10 months. He could not do anything else. And I hope that peace will come eventually. But as long as people will intimidate us and try to eliminate us, we'll bring our lawyers and fathers and physicians and doctors. We will worship peace and life, but we will fight for our liberty. And as Dar mentioned at the beginning, we are here for you, but we could not do anything without you being there for us. We are one people, one nation. And this is my story, the story of my life. And this is a camouflage of me and my father at the peak of Kilimanjaro. As close as I could be to my father and maybe to God. And really urge you to come whenever you have the option to Ammunition Hill. It's an amazing place to see who we are and what we all stand for. So thank you for listening to me. If you have any questions, by all means. It sounds better in Hebrew, but this is the best way.
It's extraordinarily moving in English as well. Thank you. Just such a beautiful and powerful and important story. I see one question has come in so far. and that is you've spoken about sort of what happened with your mom when you determined to go into the paratroopers. How did it feel for you as a father when your daughters went in?
I did not mourn my father. I did not know him. I can tell you that the most difficult thing for my mother was that I look identical to my father. Surely when I was younger than I am today, surely wearing uniforms. When she looked at me, she saw him. She could not play with her mind. But when my daughters came to the army, it was so many years afterwards. I was so proud that they decided to join the IDF. It is not taken for granted anymore in Israel that women go to the IDF. They wanted to serve their nation. But both of them did not serve in a very risky situation. They were not in the front. They were serving in very fine active units, but I do not know. I have 3 daughters. I do not have a baby boy. So, but I'm committed to this legacy, and if my son and my daughters wanted to pursue their own destiny, I would gladly do it, but it cannot be compared to what my mother faced so many years ago, or any other mother in such a situation.
So, so again, Alon, thank you so much. I think that your story is so powerful. Let's take an opportunity, and rather than sort of filtering the questions, if somebody has a question or an observation, although we do like to generally say, please keep your questions to questions. But if there's something to share with Alon, we invite you now to unmute and do so.
By the way, during normal years, I'm coming over to the United States and I'm talking to your students, I'm talking to your veterans, to your elderly people, to JCC communities. I did it 3 times already. I was supposed to come to your area on March, and then Los Angeles in June and July, but everything was blocked. So hopefully within a couple of months, when things will become back to some sort of normality, I'm at your service. I'll be more than glad to approach your youngsters and bring Israel with me.
Beautiful. And actually, I see that one question did come in. As I was saying, please feel free to ask directly, which was, what are the reactions that you usually get from Americans and from American Jews after you share your story?
Not always I'm sharing the whole extent of what I shared with you, but people relate to what we're talking about. It reached the resolution that people said to us, you know, what you just said to me, American family said to me, our uncle was a major in the United States Army, and he was one of the first officers who stormed into a concentration camp during the Second World War, and he screamed all over the premises, I'm a Jew, I'm a Jew, I'm a Jew. He implemented the same values. Can he be cherished here? This was actually the beginning of the wall I just showed you. But really, when we talk about values of human beings, they can relate to, and to our amazement at the beginning, not only Jewish people. I'm not talking about the evangelists who are coming because they love Israel and whatever we stand for. I'm talking about NYPD police officers who came. I'm talking about the American embassy who started to bring more and more guests, because we are talking about something that the American nation can relate to. Freedom, values, human values. So today, also Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the American Embassy and other embassies are sending their official guests to see Ammunition Hill, because it's the best explanatory place to understand who are the Jewish people, what is Israel, what does it stand for, through our eyes, how we chose to cherish our brave heroes. So This is why everything we did the past 10 years speaks English. This is why we keep on recruiting tour guides that speak American, understand you guys, not only English, plain English, but, and everything. You know that birthright kids started to come, Hillel kids are coming. I'm speaking to the educators of JNF in tomorrow. I'm speaking to them. So Jewish world jury relate to what we are doing. I see that people visited Ammunition Hill.
Also, Alon, if I can just ask you to maybe give suggest a perspective that like you all, I think, heard just now, Alon's story is beyond inspiring. And I blame Alon that he always makes me cry. But this is not a very unusual story in the Israeli society and in the Israeli culture, unfortunately. So Alon, if you can say something just about, we know, unfortunately, so many stories about those mothers signing these waivers and then the son is ending up getting killed. And unfortunately, we have so many stories of those. And I think today would be the right day to just, explain maybe Alon that this is something that is in larger scopes.
Destiny always plays, and God has His own ways to play with us. I grew up with my brothers and sisters forever, the orphans of Ammunition Hill. And when we reached the age of 17, we communicated. Are you going to ask your mother? Not going to ask your mother? Before us, one of the mothers, the elder brother of one of my friends, my brothers, asked the permission from his mother. She signed the waiver. In Yom Kippur, 1973, he fell. When we reached the age of 17, my friend, his younger brother, said, I'm not going to do it to my mother. Enough is enough. I'm going to become a sport guiding. And he was trained to, he was climbing trees, climbing mountains. He actually trained all the elite commander units without being a combat guy in the front. In one of his vacations, he fell from a cliff and he died. And his mother lost her husband, her older brother while signing, his younger brother without signing, and he has another sister who is younger, she's 1 year younger than me. What she's facing is something unbelievable, but she chose life time and again. So we have many dramatic stories, but one of the heroes of Ammunition Hill, which is Ethan, who did not hesitate for a second. For me, Ethan is a whole human being. I know, I can tell you about so many other things he did, but until 13 years ago, he was a remark in a song. Ethan did not hesitate for a second. He's much more than this. So when you come over to Ammunition Hill, you understand that each and every one of these guys was a whole world of associations, of a family. And this is the way we need to relate to them, to understand the difficulties and the perspectives, for sure. What were my most challenging moments in the IDF? Another lecture, another 1 hour. I did my share. I have amazing stories. And come over, or I will come over. And this is another hour of talking about my part in the army. I had my share. Okay.
Well, perhaps in starting to close, we thank you very much, Alon. It was a very, very important talk. I always want to point out to my Israeli friends that Memorial Day here in the United States has become the welcome to summer. It's a summer holiday with swimming and picnics, and there is occasional service attended by people in their 70s, 80s, 90s at the cemeteries, and there's a parade here and there. But we have lost in this country the respect for the service, not completely, but to a large extent, the respect for the service of our soldiers. And Um, I think that's another important lesson Israelis can teach us, that no, don't glorify war, but also don't forget. Don't forget what needs to be remembered, the important parts and the important personal stories. So again, thank you very, very much. And thank everyone who joined here on this second installment, and look forward to seeing you in the future. We have an active Israel Advocacy Committee. It's really a function of both Temple and Federation, and we have an active participation now in our region in the JNF-USA Western New England board. So we hope to bring more programs, and anyone who wants to join the Israel Advocacy Committee, please don't be shy.
Okay, take care of your safety and your health.
Thank you.
COVID-19 is going to vanish eventually. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Bye now.
Thank you. That was great. Thank you.
תודה רבה.
Dan, thank you. Just great. And we'll see everybody in just a little bit.